Hello, and welcome to another episode of the podcast where we will reassure you that football is fixable. Alright, I'm James, and as usual, I'm joined by Cess and Dan. Alright, chaps.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright.
Oh, he's still on it, alright. Did you hear this week that an email was sent from the
No way.
The top brass, yeah, exactly, big news. The top brass at Man United sent an email around.
Yes, I have heard this.
The whole club.
Yes, I have.
Dan knows what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Asking everyone not to leak.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen this.
Not to leak all of the things that are going on within the club, because
Yeah.
it's quite damaging. That email's been leaked,
Yeah.
hence we know about it. Just want to get Dan's thoughts on that, really. It's a fairly dire example. Well, it's a great example of how dire the kind of atmosphere and culture is at the club, isn't it?
I mean, I'd love to tell you more about it, but I'm sworn to secrecy, so...
I see.
Yeah. Don't want to get in trouble with Omar.
You're the only one.
Yeah, it feels like
Yeah.
basically the captain of a ship just saying to a few of the crew, just don't tell anyone there's a massive leak going on.
We're going down. Don't tell anyone.
I did see something else, actually. Did you see Tottenham Hotspur announced
Who?
that they no longer wanted to be called Tottenham, or they made some kind of public statement about being called Tottenham, and they made it very clear that they wanted to be... Yeah. So an email sent by the Premier League to broadcasters. The club have requested that they are not referred to as Tottenham. In a world full of Uniteds, Cities and Rovers, there is only one Hotspur, Tottenham Hotspur. When referring to the team or the brand, please use Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, or THFC. Never refer to the club as Tottenham Hotspur FC, or TH. The club's explanation for this is simple. Tottenham is the name of the area, but not the name of the club. It is a long-standing club policy not to refer to themselves as Tottenham. For me, they will for always be Spurs and Spursy, no matter what they're called.
I was just going to say, would they mind us calling them Spursy still?
What a Spursy thing, just to cry about what you're being called about. Do you know what I mean?
Of all the things.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you'll find, as I told you both in the previous episode, actually, last week when we were fixing Tottenham Hotspur, that Spursy doesn't mean that. It means when you're very, very close to victory, and then you basically snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. So it's basically when you're destined to win something and you don't quite make it over the line. So your Spursy reference there, Dan, doesn't quite fit. But
what I mean, I'm dissing your rivals here, and you're then contradicting me. I can't say anything to pass, can I?
He just won't accept it from a United fan. That's what it is.
The thing is,
that's Manchester United.
The thing is, it must be the ball. I'm just throwing that out there randomly.
It must be the ball. Yeah, that is true.
As a professional football podcaster, it's putting bias aside and being able to defend my rival Spurs from people who are misinformed. So I just feel I have to do that.
Oh, wow.
Fair enough.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first, guys. James is a Spurs fan.
Well, have you heard, guys? We've had another thing stolen this week.
Oh, what now?
You know, we'd quite recently we did the whole Cole Palmer overrated. I don't know how we said it.
Well, I think you said you don't get the Cole Palmer train or whatever.
Cole Palmer train, exactly. Yeah. And we'd never heard anyone say otherwise. In fact, all we kept on hearing was how he's one of the Premier League greats, one of the European greats. He's one of the best players in the world at the moment. It's just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier.
I'm sure I saw a video recently on TalkSport, or one of the fan ones or something like that, saying why Arsenal don't go and spend over 100 million to bring Cole Palmer in. Why would we do that?
Yeah. So, on the club on YouTube, they had an episode that came out yesterday, day before, something like that, saying Cole Palmer overrated, and they basically had a discussion over whether he's overrated or not, which this is the first time I've seen anyone talk about it, and it happened to be a few days after the episode that we brought out.
We mentioned it, yeah. It was sometime in our last episode or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy how this keeps happening. It can't be coincidence.
No.
I think there's some kind of glitch on Spotify. I think we're actually getting millions and millions of listens, and it just only looks like 20 when you look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's 24 this week, actually.
Hey!
Yeah. Where are the other 6 zeros gone?
I think they're just simplifying it because they can't get all the zeros and digits on the screen.
That's true.
So they just sort of, 24, obviously million or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they just put the 24.
I've got another segment, guys. Thomas Tuchel. Tuchel.
Are you okay?
I don't know how to say his name.
Let me pat your back.
Let's call him.
Bless you.
Let's call him Tommy T.
Tommy T.
Yeah, our New England manager. He's been getting a bit of flack recently because supposedly he's not attended that many football matches today. Recently, there's something like 30 games he's missed.
Right.
And Troy Deeney, he came out of the woodworks. He's been getting a lot more time on TalkSport recently, which
Troy.
is a shame to TalkSport.
And for the public.
But he decided to attack Tommy T. He's claiming that Tommy T isn't communicating with the wider world about exactly what his plans are for England. But I don't understand what the hell he's talking about. Why would he come out? Yeah, so he was saying that he should be naming who the focal player is and who he's going to build the team around.
What?
Yeah. That doesn't make sense at all.
Does any England manager... Do any managers do that?
I don't think there's been a single international manager in history that's done it.
Just to let everyone else know, all of our enemies
this is
and
what
rivals,
we're going to do.
This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, and also, in the tournament last year, England was kind of attacked for making Bellingham the focal point.
Yeah,
Some of the England players even apparently didn't like that. So why would he go out and do that? It just makes no sense at all.
No. It sounds like classic xenophobia from mainstream media, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it probably is, to be honest. Yeah, I just don't really understand why. Sure, if he doesn't go to a game, I would prefer if he went to the other games, but he's not even managed a training session yet. Why would he be talking about which players he'd pick and what his plans are?
Also, he needs, like you say, he needs to see them in training, needs to see what they're like on in a game, to see how they manage the game, that kind of stuff. He's not done that from the England dugout before. No. So he needs to see how the players perform before he can start thinking about what his team's going to properly be in the tournament.
And since when have we ever known anything like what a team's going to be like until you see a few friendlies? If we see, there'll be a few squads called out and things. You're never going to know before the tournaments, really, are you?
Yeah, I'd actually be happier if someone said to him, what your plan's going to be for the England team, and he'd be like, "Das ist verboten."
That's one more thing he might say.
Yeah,
he does speak English, but fine.
Oh, does he? Okay.
I think this is a wider problem, though, isn't it? And I think with football, it's such a accessible, widely watched sport and commented on sport. There's so much rubbish out there which is diluting the quality kind of punditry and analytical sort of discussions that we want to be seeing, that we're trying to engage with in our own podcast, for example. It's almost like the third view here I'm giving. But in terms of it's this kind of stuff, it might just be clickbaity, and it's just so much rubbish out there that just gives commentators on football a real bad name, and it really makes you have to really look for the good stuff, because that's just, what does that even mean? There's no substance to that, really.
No,
to be honest.
not
I
at
don't
all.
if I'm being a bit harsh there, but
basically, we've always been until Southgate, we've always been kind of like the media attacking the England national
us
team
and them,
stuff.
isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Why is Troy Deeney and why is the media already doing it before Tuchel even manages a game?
Any chance you get to kind of criticise and build a bit of momentum, it's almost like to set him up to fail if it happens. So, well, we said you didn't do this.
Anyway, should we get to the episode, guys?
Hey, that's my line.
Right, tonight, guys, we're going to have a debate. But not just any debate, it's this debate.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Now, the debates we've done before, we've kind of had a format where we wanted to choose a topic and then swap the defenders around. So, for example, if we had a debate Arsenal versus Man United, James would have to support Man United and Dan would have to support Arsenal.
Whoa, not support. Debate on behalf of. I'm not having support there, sorry.
No, you have to go to the game, wear the shirt.
Not supporting United.
Yeah.
You have to be one of them to understand that.
In this debate, we are debating managers. Sir Alex Ferguson versus Sir Pep Guardiola.
Pep Guardiola.
Is Pep short for something?
Yes, Josep, I think it is. It says on the Champions League games, which City aren't in anymore, that Josep Guardiola, it says on when the name tag comes up when he's on the screen.
Then why is it Pep?
No idea.
Shouldn't it be Sepp?
Yes.
Is it because it sounds silly?
Or Joe.
Because Pep is better.
Not my words.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's going to be Fergie versus Pep, and James will be supporting Fergie, and Dan will be defending Pep.
Okay.
So the kind of context around this is obviously Dan's a United fan who can't see beyond anything United. And
Hang on.
My side of things
I
is
just interject
apparently,
here?
allegedly hate Man United.
I think my bias for Man United is probably less than your bias against United.
Don't know what you're
That's
talking about.
actually very true. In fact, I would say his bias against United is probably on par with his love for Arsenal.
Name one time I've been anti-United.
And now you can pause the podcast and go back to every single episode where James has attacked United out of nowhere.
Lies.
In fact, you can go to a little bit earlier in this episode where James brought up Man United. Yeah. So the format.
I had nothing else to say there.
Yeah. So the format for today, you'll each have a minute as your opening statement. And then after that, we're going to have 3 rounds where I'm going to ask you guys questions and I will give you guys the freedom to talk over each other like James always does with Dan.
Don't know what you're talking about.
The idea of our Swapsy method is that we have to use our own method to be able to unbiasedly judge and rate certain players, managers, styles, anything in football.
Something that so many people struggle to do, isn't it? They can't put their bias aside.
Yeah.
So we're proving why we have a football podcast, why we're on it, is because we're professionals.
Yeah.
We're not biased.
And not only do we have a podcast, but we deserve to actually have a podcast over anyone else.
Have I seriously got to defend Fergie?
Yes. And not only do you have to defend him, you have to go first.
Oh,
Right. Great. Thank you.
No worries.
This is a win-win for me. Like,
Yeah. Even if
Honestly.
you lose, you got James to defend Fergie.
yeah.
Right, James. You will go on my first whistle.
Oh, no.
Are you ready?
Oh, hang on, wait.
Yeah.
I just want to. I'm just gonna get out my own personal recording device, so I've got my own personal reference of this moment in time.
I mean, you could just re-listen to this podcast and
Get us more
double our
views.
double our listens. Yeah,
Listens, yeah.
just to isolate this moment, just for my own personal pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Okay, you are going in 3, 2, 1.
Sir Alex Ferguson became Sir Alex Ferguson through his work being a manager in the British game, particularly football in England, right? The Premier League era. People will talk back to his time at Aberdeen, where he won the European Cup. But his time in the Premier League when, he joined English football before the Premier League, mind, but as it evolved into the Premier League, and United were really the kind of flag bearers to take the Premier League forward, in a sense. They were the ones that kind of became global and this powerhouse that we know today. And that's largely because of what Sir Alex Ferguson did. I'm going to call him Fergie, for short. So Fergie, I mean, he had really one of the greatest impacts in, as a force in football, second only really to Dennis Bergkamp.
That was a very short minute there.
Shall I say more? I can say more if you want me to.
No, absolutely not. No, you can finish it on that dire point if you like.
That's a high bar that we're comparing him to there. So,
wow. It's amazing that we're debating Sir Alex Ferguson and Pep Guardiola, and your point was Dennis Bergkamp.
Naturally.
Wow.
It's just unbelievable.
I mean, you compare art to Picasso, Michelangelo, and Da Vinci, don't you?
You almost ran out there.
Almost ran out of artists.
Yeah, you're like, which Ninja Turtle should I mention?
Da Vinci, actually. Yeah, he must have been one of the...
Leonardo.
Oh, of course, yeah. All right, edit that out.
Absolutely not. That is staying in there. Wow.
Yeah. Whoops.
Okay, right. Dan, you're already winning because James has been deducted a point for mentioning Dennis Bergkamp. So
Perfect.
your minute starts now.
So Pep Guardiola, Pep Ball. He has been widely successful across Europe. He did it in more than just one country. So he's not only achieved great things with trophies and in his leadership, he was also a fantastic coach, and I would say a better coach perhaps than Sir Alex Ferguson. creating a whole brand of football that's been adopted by the entire league in the Premier League, which is, of course, as we all know, the pinnacle of international football anyway. So to have an entire league right at the top tier of football emulate what you are doing is a real indication of your success. On top of that, his point tallies in his Premier League seasons versus the point tallies of Sir Alex Ferguson far supersede Sir Alex Ferguson's, and he managed to achieve 4 Premier League titles in a row.
That is 1 minute, Dan, and as I said before, you went slightly over, so you are disqualified.
Oh, I was going to say minus 1 point as well, but I'll take disqualified.
That's it, disqualification. So thanks for listening, everyone. Do I win? That's
what a shame.
Right, you're back in, Dan. You're back in.
What?
So, round 2, I'm going to ask you of the 3 best achievements that your manager has had that supports them being better than the other. What 3 specific achievements did they have in their career that you think makes them better than the other? And James, as you went first last time, you will go first again this time.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So what 3 achievements on your favourite manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, did he have in his career?
One thing I must say is Dan said that Pep has done it in more than one country. I just want to say that, well, Fergie did it in Scotland and England. Scotland is a country. Sorry, Scotland.
So is that your first point then?
No. So
it's another deduction of a point, is it?
No.
Breaking
So
rules.
3 reasons why Fergie is better than Pep. So firstly, he managed to rebuild Man United. If we stick with Man United, for example, he joined in 1986.
Yeah.
He rebuilt the team several times to go and win titles, and that wasn't through spending billions of pounds. What was it? Pep spent 1.6 billion to date, or something like that.
Yeah, but that's inflation.
It would be inflated, so you have to adjust for inflation for what Fergie did spend at the time. But it wasn't just suddenly to solve a problem, let's go and spend and buy 3 new players in the transfer window. He actually had to adapt his side. And one thing that he built into his team was the mentality. Even when other teams were technically maybe better, for example, he would find a way to win. And it was always about trying to get over the line. Okay. So that's one of his biggest sort of achievements.
Look, for the purposes of this debate, I am fully committed. I'm surprised that you didn't list his first achievement as shaking Dennis Bergkamp's hand. To be honest, so
how
well
is
done for
Bergkamp
that.
being brought up again? I'm going to have to deduct a point from anyone who mentions Bergkamp from now on.
Okay, my
I mean, obviously, I did also deduct a point from James earlier on.
Hang on a minute, what?
So Pep Guardiola's. I would say Pep has also rebuilt a team. So he has, I would say, probably had 2 teams at least.
Has he?
In his time of existence. Yeah, I'd say so. You had that team where he didn't have a striker, didn't you?
At Man City?
Yeah. At City.
Well, they had Jesus in that front, but okay. Is that rebuilding a team, though? Is it by adding a striker to it?
Yeah, Jesus isn't that good. I mean, he's an Arsenal striker. So
yeah.
But does by adding one striker count as rebuilding a team?
Well, no, because that wasn't. I'm not saying just having a striker, but the whole team dynamic changed, didn't it? Once they've put Haaland in there and they went and won a treble. My point is, I don't think rebuilding a team is something unique to Ferguson. If we're going to do things that are unique, but
I just think he rebuilt. 3 or 4 key teams really that were title-winning teams. That's what he did, and he did it with not just being able to go and buy loads of players, basically.
Well, he would have had to do that because he was around for about 58 years, wasn't he?
Yeah, was it 26 or something years? I think it was.
That, yeah, players would have had to come and go because he would have literally seen careers start and
exactly.
end.
So the whole cycle, and the whole team would go through that cycle, and he'd have to change it. And that's my second point. Just to add in there, his second greatest achievement is his longevity, to be able to compete in the top league of English football against some of the best managers in the world, especially as the Premier League took force over the 10, 20 something years it's been around. It's attracted some of the best managers in world football, and Fergie was up there competing with the best of them.
But isn't that something you're taking away from Pep purely because he hasn't been around long enough? Pep's been around for 8 years, 9 years, something like that. And arguably he's been more successful than Fergie was in his first 8 or 9 years.
It's the parameters of that, isn't it? It's not that Pep isn't great. It's not that Pep isn't successful. But we're comparing one against another. So all we can do is look at the facts right now. Maybe if Pep keeps managing for another 10, 15 years, we'll be able to revisit this debate and see what the difference is then. But I do think the circumstances, Fergie did not have an almost unlimited arsenal of, money.
You're almost going to have a point
that was legitimate. Of money to be able to spend. Obviously, in recent years, we've got FFP or PSR kind of rules and stuff. Pep was able to inherit a team that had already spent, millions, if not billions of pounds, and then he spent 1.6 or something before this January window. So he's, the amount of money he spent is ridiculous.
So City had already spent big money before he started, but they weren't anything like the same powerhouse as they were after he began his time there.
Right, Dan, what's your first point going to be? What's one of the 3 achievements that makes Pep better than Fergie?
So I think my first point would be, I think his greatest impact on the game are his tactics and the way Pep Ball has richly taken over the nation. You see people at grass level, grassroots football playing out from the back and playing the Pep Guardiola way. For all you can say about the money spent or whatever, those tactics are his. That's his way of playing, and that is a colossal impact on the game at every level.
True, but is that something that I would hate to play Pep Ball in Sunday League. I think that would ruin the game a little bit for me. Is that necessarily a good thing?
Conditions able to do that as well. So when we were playing Sunday League, it'd be very hard to pass out from the back sometimes. On the pitches that we'd have,
especially with the goalkeepers we had as well.
Yeah, you couldn't even kick it in a straight line. Sometimes we'd just say, and then they'd kick it to the complete opposite side.
Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like the style or not, like the same could be said on both sides of the coin, if you see what I mean, for Fergie as well. Whether you liked him or not or whatever, you can't deny the impact, and that's my point for this.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether you like the style of football or not, or whether you like where it's going or not, you cannot deny the level of impact that it has had, and it has to be something great to have that level of impact.
I think Pep has popularised passing up from the back. It's become, as Dan says, it's become a bit of a kind of whole transition in football. He's popularised it. He wasn't the first, manager to do it. Obviously, his roots in Johan Cruyff, kind of the history of the Dutch football passing out, total football. Wenger was passing it out from the back, with the old Arsenal teams for decades before Pep came to the Premier League.
You are.
Am I walking the fine line or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're very close.
So yeah, I think it's more of a grey area really, because I think Pep has popularised it, but he's not the first one to do it. He didn't invent the whole thing. He has. I didn't
say he invented it though. I didn't say he invented it, but he is the one that created it, that massive impact on the game with that tactic. I'm not saying he created it.
I suppose, obviously. Before him, other people didn't do it as much. It was only really localised, I suppose, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like, it existed before. Obviously, it existed before. Like you say, Wenger did it. It was obviously he learned at the Barcelona way, and that's all through Cruyff, isn't it? So everyone, the whole thing at Barcelona is all from Cruyff, and so obviously that's something that's existed a long time. But Cruyff was around a long, long time ago, and that level of impact on the English game never existed until Pep Guardiola. So yes, the method of playing existed before, but it was that partnered with Pep Guardiola. His impact is what I'm commenting on here. I'm not talking about the actual tactic itself. I'm talking about his implementation.
Fair enough. All right, James, what's your second point?
Oh, it's longevity. So the idea that, and I kind of embedded it earlier on with an earlier point, so the idea that Fergie was able to do it and win titles whilst rebuilding teams over 26 years or whatever it was. From 1986 he came to United, if I remember correctly. Not that I was alive, but from what I hear. But and then he retired, 2013 was it? I think. Yeah. So, well, there you go.
Okay. So, all right, so your first point is the same as your second point, so that's basically you're not making a second point, so that's perfectly fine. Dan, what's your second point?
Rebuilding teams is one point, and over several decades is another one. So I think that's showing that
that's a continuation of the
so
sentence.
it's continuation, but rebuilding teams isn't longevity. That's the ability to rebuild
it's
a
fine.
team.
You've lost your second point. So
all of the factors that football, things that affect football have changed. Just we're watching the Premier League now, and how we always compare it to 10, 20 years ago and so on. How it's changed over that period of time. Fergie obviously isn't managing now, but when he up to the point in 2013, which for us is quite recent, for our younger listeners it might not be, but how we watched football change a lot in that era. He was successful all the way up to his final season where he won the league. He was doing that, since he won his first league in, was it 92, Dan?
93.
93?
Yeah, it was the 92-93 season. Yeah, so
there you
93
go.
was when we won it.
So, I mean, that whole era there of winning titles, and he won, was it 13, I think, for Man United, league titles? Over that completely, he was competing against several different styles, from physicality to the more technical game as as the Premier League came into real force from the late 90s, early 2000s, and so on. So longevity, but also under changing circumstances to do that.
Okay, I'll allow it. I'll allow that being your second point. Well done.
Thank you.
Dan, what's your second point?
Let's say the 4 in a row. Four league titles in a row. That was an achievement.
Oh, yeah.
So although Pep Guardiola, you talk about longevity, Pep Guardiola hasn't been there as long, but you could argue his rate of success is greater. Sir Alex Ferguson, for all the time he was there, never won 4 Premier League trophies in a row.
True.
And
I think he's won 6 league titles in 8 years or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. I think that's right. 6 and 8. So yeah, I mean, four in a row is a fantastic achievement, and it's not just the fact he'd won 4 in a row. He won 4 in a row coming up against a fantastic Liverpool team that also scored point tallies that would have won them Premier League seasons in many years that Alex Ferguson won the Premier League.
Yeah, imagine being a Liverpool fan and they got like 97 and 98 points or something, and they kept coming second. Yeah.
So to win 4 in a row, and I think people obviously sometimes when people just win all the time, people get accustomed to it and they don't really fully appreciate the level of the achievement. But to win 4 titles in a row up against Klopp's Liverpool team, I think was an incredible achievement.
That's true.
So that's my second point.
I like it. They also, not only did they win 4 titles in a row, but they also won other trophies at the same time, didn't they? And that's something that we've always said the reason why the treble is so difficult is because you're having to compete on so many fronts at the same time. Have to try and balance out injury and fatigue and momentum, morale for however many games they have to play. And to do that in those 4 seasons, one of them was the treble as well, wasn't it? Not last year, but the year before.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I know what you mean.
It must be so difficult with that team worth £1 billion, whatever it is. I mean, their bench, when Man City were mocked recently for losing games, their bench was worth more than the teams they were playing against. There's like 700
I wonder how many.
pounds.
Yeah, did they lose 9 games in 11? No, they lost 9 out of 11 or something, didn't they? I wonder how many of those teams, what their like overall squad cost was. That'll be quite interesting to see. Just compare like the cost of each one.
Yeah, exactly. I keep hearing that Pep's a genius. I know I mentioned this on a previous episode, but he didn't really find a way tactically to adapt his team, or in terms of the motivation you're talking about, the getting that into his team where they hold on for even a draw and not get defeated. They are throwing victories away. They did it against Real Madrid in the first leg of the Champions League this year. They just keep doing it. If Pep's a genius, a Fergie team would not have done that. They would hold on and snatch a late win or get a draw. They had the mentality.
Yeah, Fergie team
never. I think that's forgetting a lot of the bad that happened under Sir Alex Ferguson. We had years where we were really poor for long periods of time.
It's not we now, by the way, Dan.
Sorry.
It's they.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
And just so you know, Ferguson never lost as many games in a row as Pep did.
No, he wouldn't have. No. Okay. Fine. Pep has won a lot in a row.
Over a longer period of time, Ferguson never experienced that failure, shall we say, that Pep experienced recently with his team that, I'll say it again, was worth, like a bench, was worth £700 million.
In that time, though, I've got to say, I agree with that, because Fergie, yes, he didn't have that kind of losing streak in his 26-year career at United. However, Pep has never gone 2 seasons without winning the league with Man City. Fergie has. Fergie went 3 years without winning without winning a single trophy, I think, actually. So I think it's what is it? 6 of one, half dozen the other. Maybe it's putting Pep at too much of a high pedestal to think, oh my God, he's not doing it right, and losing so many games and stuff. But this is the first time we've seen it. Right, James, your third and final point. Is it going to be the same as the first 2 points, or are you going to be a different one?
No, possibly the greatest achievement.
Oh.
So it's very much linked to the longevity and how he's able to compete. But it is a new achievement as well.
Okay. It's not just going to finish the sentence that you've been creating.
No, that he was able to rebuild it. No.
Yeah.
So he was able to adapt his teams to compete against the best as the Premier League evolved and all of that, right?
Okay. I'm pretty sure you said that already.
Okay. Let me say.
It sounds like your 3 arguments are just reworded phrases. It's like one argument reworded 3 times.
Yeah.
Shut up, Dan. So he was able to compete with the best. Pep's come over in an era where the Premier League, when he inherited the Man City team that had already won titles, by the way, Fergie didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Fergie had to build his teams, like I said. Pep inherited a great side, spent loads of money to get even more players in, and then I don't think he's built more than one side, has he? Now that they're going through the end of the cycle, you got the De Bruyne's aging and stuff. Pep's showing that he's going to have to spend a load more money just to rebuild. Whereas Fergie competed against arguably the greatest manager we've ever seen in Arsene Wenger.
Jose Mourinho.
Right. That is another point deducted from you, James. I've given you warnings.
I mean, partially joking in the sense that obviously it's an Arsenal reference, but also Jose Mourinho, the managers that Fergie was competing with, Pep never found himself in a league where he's competing against more than one other top manager, really. He was against Mourinho in Spain.
But it only
But
takes
other than
one
that,
other...
Against David Moyes, Roberto Martinez, Ronald Koeman.
Exactly. He's come over to the Prem in an era where Klopp was a brilliant manager, and what he did with Liverpool, I agree with what you were saying. Although we failed to sort of acknowledge the standard of the league. You think, we just measure it in terms of points. Well, some teams that Fergie won the title with not as many points, but that's because the league was more competitive. City have spent so much more money than so many other teams that it's not as competitive for Man City relative.
Okay.
So considering the points difference there, you can't just measure the quality of a team on number of points.
But it only takes one competitor for you not to win. Doesn't matter how competitive the rest of the league is. Liverpool were incredibly competitive. Do you know what I mean?
I can't remember if I genuinely can't remember. Has there ever been a 3-horse race pretty much to the end of the season in the Prem?
No.
Well, yeah. There has been. So, Arsenal, Man United and Liverpool in 2002, for example. Chelsea as well. Arsenal, United, Chelsea in around 2005. So Chelsea ended up winning it. I think it was second, then United third.
Yeah.
It's gone to the last month of the season, so it's been close, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just the number of points that we're talking about there that I think is questionable. It's the style of football that Fergie would have come up against. So from the passy out, the technical sides, I mean, such as Arsenal, I mean, many would say that Arsene Wenger was his greatest rival during the era of the Premier League. But then Mourinho comes in, playing a very different style, more physical, more pragmatic. And Fergie still was able to pip to titles. Okay, both those managers, Wenger and Jose, were able to beat Fergie at times. But over the whole period of time that he was managing, Fergie got the better of more teams.
He won the war.
Yeah, he won the war overall. He lost a few battles, but he won the war overall, really.
Okay.
So, yeah, against several different styles. And Chelsea spent a lot of money back then as well. They were the original Man City, if you like.
Yeah. Okay. I still feel as though all 3 points are basically the same, but thanks very much, James. And Dan, over to you for your final point.
I'm crying inside.
Okay, my final point is based on the Champions League final between Manchester United and Barcelona when Pep Guardiola was managing Barcelona and Alex Ferguson Alex Ferguson was managing Man United, and I think it was 2 years in a row, they destroyed us.
It wasn't 2 years in a row, but I think there was a year in between.
Oh, okay, yeah, but there were twice it happened, and on both occasions Barcelona destroyed us. Pep Guardiola got the better of Sir Alex Ferguson. Hang on, no.
I say again, Dan,
them,
and for the final time, it's not us.
Them.
It's them.
Then
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola
This judge has really got his work cut out.
destroyed United.
Listen, I laid out the rules
Twice.
very clearly.
Well, to be fair,
Yeah.
but like forgetting my usage of, I feel I've been pretty unbiased. I feel like, other than the word us, I feel like I've done quite well. But
Yeah, but if somebody was arguing that in court, it wouldn't really look great if you're us with the other
Listen,
team.
Your Honour, I made a mistake, but I think I've been all right.
yeah, that's what I probably would say. But yeah, so that's my final point. My final point is when Pep Guardiola came up against Alex Ferguson in those two Champions
literally
League
beat
finals, he literally beat him, but not even like marginally convincingly.
I agree with that, but can I counter that? Because I think I could manage that Barcelona side that beat Fergie that day. You had Messi in his prime, and with him, you've got Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta, which is arguably the greatest club side we've ever seen, which you give kudos to Pep for helping to build
100%.
that. But if you've got players of that talent, I mean, that's phenomenal, isn't it? You've got Messi, I think
Dani Alves,
Dani
Puyol,
Alves in every position. Was it David Villa up front as well, that sort of era?
Yeah, it was. Villa.
I think he was a bit after.
No, David Villa
was that
was
the
up
same
front
era?
because I remember him scoring on one of those Champions League finals.
I mean, what a side
Yeah.
that became, that club side.
Because the Everton legend, Samuel Eto'o, played in the first one, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, with Henry, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Henry, Eto'o and Messi.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, and then...
An actual Everton, I mean, maybe not Everton legend, just a legend that happened
You made
to play for
Eto'o,
Everton.
I think. I think I've heard you say that. Yeah,
we made him
Everton
who he
made
is.
Eto'o who he is.
Yeah, exactly. The career that he had before Everton wouldn't have happened if he didn't play for Everton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He knew that he had to build up to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then he made it when he got to Everton.
Then he made it, and it went downhill very quickly after that.
Yeah. I'm surprised, James, that you never brought up the one thing I think that would have destroyed all of Dan's arguments, and that's not anything to do with Man United. You didn't bring up the fact that he managed Aberdeen in a Scottish league where Celtic and Rangers are always expected to win, and he won the league and he won the European Cup against, I think it was Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or something, with Aberdeen. Pep only ever managed Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Man City, teams that were expected to pretty much compete or win in their divisions, and yet you didn't bring up the one thing that probably would have destroyed his argument.
Oh yeah, I might have forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I mean, in my defence, I wasn't alive, but he Aberdeen. I've got a fourth point.
Really?
Aberdeen. What Fergie did. I did mention that he was Aberdeen before he came to.
Well, unfortunately,
United.
you only get 3 points, so you are disqualified. Yeah. It's a shame. Yeah, thanks for listening. Right, we are going to round 3 now. The third round is a contextual round. I'm going to give you guys a scenario, a context, all right? And then you guys have to do. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be one after the other. You guys can both argue at the same time, talk over each other, fight all you want. The context is that your managers will be managing Everton. Yeah. So you have no money. You're languishing towards the bottom of the league. You've got players that are slower than jogging speed
So it's Everton
and get
now.
injured. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh no.
Yeah.
To be fair,
And you're also going to move to a new stadium, so you've got no money to spend. You're not going to have money to spend.
I'm at a disadvantage
in the next
here
couple of years.
because your context could also be applied to Man United, who Ferguson actually did manage.
That's true. I could have just said Man United, and that would have meant exactly the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So, which of your managers do you think will do better?
Can I just say straight away, Fergie? He's already proven
Pep,
it.
obviously.
Well, no, it's obviously Fergie.
Is it?
I mean, at Aberdeen, as we said, as my fourth point was.
Oh, was it?
That he was able to win the European Cup and the league.
I
with
feel like
Aberdeen.
you can't bring up the Aberdeen thing because that was Cess's point.
Even
I
whilst
think that's
competing
unfair.
in a two-team league with Celtic and Rangers,
I feel as though I said all of that.
Fergie won the league with Aberdeen and the European Cup, beating either Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. And when Fergie came to United, they hadn't won the English league for, was it 3 decades or something? 30 years down, something like that.
Yeah.
And then he was able to get through a difficult time initially to then win his first title in 92-93 and then a subsequent 12 more titles following that. So he's shown that he can inherit a team that's struggling and make them title winners.
Wow. That is a strong argument.
Mic drop.
Case closed.
Thank you. I'll take my winnings now.
Would he be able to...
Dan, you can leave now with dignity still intact.
Thing is, but if your argument is about managing a team today, in Everton's team today, and in the context of today, would Alex Ferguson's methods be actually that successful in the modern game? And Pep Guardiola would probably have far greater success in the modern game with a team in today's game. So if you're talking about the Everton of today, Pep Guardiola would be far more successful than Sir Alex Ferguson, who was a manager of the past.
Well, there's one key word you said there, and I'm going to hang everything on it, and that is the word probably. Because the thing is, in the modern game, you could say that about Pep, but he's never been at a team that isn't expected to win, as Sess mentioned earlier, actually.
Thank you very much. Oh, I might not deduct you the point from right at the beginning.
Get in with the judge. That's how you win these things.
See, so it's 2 against 1.
Yeah,
this is
Pep's
fair.
Never been Pep's never won anything with a team that wasn't expected to. He was already expected to win things at Barcelona. Goes to Bayern Munich, where there is a one-team league essentially. Where did he win it every season? I don't think he did. Didn't he?
Yeah, he won it every season.
Didn't Klopp win it one year?
No, that was before Pep.
Okay, you can edit that out.
Hell no.
And then he goes to Man City, where they'd already won the title and spent, like we said, billions of pounds.
Yeah, but look at Barcelona now.
I know I'm exaggerating the billions, but it is literally over $1 billion. And in his career, Pep Guardiola has spent more money. I know we need to adjust it for inflation, but he spent more money than any other manager, which before January's transfer window even was standing at 2.06 billion.
Yeah, but forget about that.
And just one final thing,
like if you actually apply the money that was spent at the time in terms of proportionary money spent at the time, Man United were also the biggest spenders in the league at the time when Ferguson.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation. Yeah,
so that's not really a point, is it?
I want to finish my argument, and then I've already dropped the mic. I'm going to have to pick it up again.
Yeah, okay.
But Roy Keane, who famously does not get on well with Fergie. It obviously ended quite badly, the way his contract ended and everything like that. He's spoken about Fergie since. They've had chapters in each other's books and things on it and all of that. But there's one particular reference I want to make, and that's to the Best of Enemies programme, where Vieira and Keane sat opposite each other. And Keane said in that show, and you can watch this on YouTube, that one thing about Fergie that he really liked is that he always seemed to get the best out of the players. He always seemed to say the right things in the right moments. So in terms of man management, that Dan mentioned about Pep earlier on, Fergie seemed to always get
it. But when he was asked who the best manager he ever played with was, he said Brian Clough.
He did. That is true.
He did, yep. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah.
But Brian Clough is probably the greatest manager ever, managed, right? He got Nottingham Forest to win 2 Champions League.
So you know about the whole Nottingham Forest history, but you didn't even know Aberdeen's history.
Yeah.
It's almost like you didn't do any research for this
episode
or something.
You said at the start, I said, can I do some research? And you said, no, you're not allowed.
No, whatever, I don't care. Anyway, right, thanks very much for that, guys. Anything you guys want to add as final comments before I make a judgment on who scored the least highest, the most least?
Yeah, would you like a coffee?
That is not fair.
Is this
that is
blackmail?
I'm not there. I'm not there. I can't offer you a coffee.
I'm just going to offer a coffee. You can take.
Oh yeah. What are you going to offer, Dan? Is there any? I suppose you could Monzo something over.
I could do, or I could Deliveroo something. Give me your postcode of your work address. I'll send something to you. On a Monday morning.
Excellent.
I'll send you a Starbucks.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Can you beat that, James? I
can cook you up something if you like.
This is a brilliant episode.
Can we wait until I get paid at the end of the month?
Excellent. Thanks very much, guys. That was a fantastic, unbiased debate. With only a couple of slips from Dan from saying we.
Yeah, come out of character
8
now.
or 9
Can
times.
I come out of character now?
Oh yeah.
Thank God.
You can come out. You can love Fergie and United again.
Can I come out of character? Bloody hate Fergie.
So he's the greatest of all time. He's just the greatest.
I love Arsenal.
Arsenal, I love you.
Right, so I've totted up the points, lads. and you are both in the minus. However, there is one that's less in the minus.
Closer to positive?
Well, actually, no, you're both just as much in the minus, but closer to the 0. Yeah. And
right.
That person is James.
So, did I win?
Well, you would do. However, you were disqualified early on, remember? Because you used the 4th point out of a 3-point series.
So that means I win.
So unfortunately, you were
So
disqualified.
that means Dan wins.
Well, unfortunately, Dan, you were actually disqualified even before that because you went over the minute mark in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's going to have to be a null set, unfortunately. You are both disqualified.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
But we'll never know. We'll have to just keep the general consensus that Wenger's the best manager ever and just won't have anyone else.
In which case, Fergie is the best. James wins.
I actually like that outcome.
Damn.
Now you're going to have to celebrate the fact that you won with Fergie, and it's not Wenger, unfortunately. Yeah,
it's like winning a battle by stabbing yourself. I don't know. It's just.
Can I just say that whole time I was getting wound up about James's arguments for Ferguson. I was sat here like, this is the weakest argument I've ever heard in my life. I'm getting so wound up by it.
I just couldn't believe he missed out Aberdeen. Right, guys, enough of that. All right, we need some juicy tips for fantasy football this weekend. We need to get John back. So here is John's juicy tips.
Juicy.
Get your tips out for the lads.
John's juicy tips.
Yeah.
Alright, what's that smell? It's some more FPL. And nothing smells more delicious than my juicy tips. In defence, this may be crazy considering their poor form and lack of a goalkeeper, but I think it's time to get a Chelsea defender in your team. They have 2 home games coming up against Southampton and Leicester, whose attacks cannot hit a barn door. And my pick would be the Spanish sideshow Bob. It's Marc Cucurella at 5.1 million. In midfield, it's Jared Bowen for West Ham. He should have a bag full of confidence right now after his match winner against Arsenal. He's playing as a central striker and it's Leicester up next, so expect a fruit bowl full of goals. And up front, it's time for the return to your team of Matthias Cunha for Wolves. He scored in his last 3 appearances and has decent fixtures for the foreseeable. Juicy.
Thanks, John, as always. He is good at those tips, isn't he?
He's all right. I think the fact that he can back it up by being second in the board, that's pretty. Imagine if he was as low as you.
Whoa! I'm up to 31.
Up to 31.
Yeah, I'm 31st place now.
Oh, wow.
That's like Everton going, we're up to 14th.
Can I just say, Dan is in my sights, so he's 28th, and I can see him. I'm breathing down his neck.
I've had a very poor month.
But yes, John is second, quite close actually to your buddy old Sam. Yeah. And we have a new 3rd place as well, which I'll give a shout out because Sam's been top for so long.
Yeah.
With the team name restored, Jack. Well done, Jack, for being in top 3 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you'd like to join our league and see if you could beat any of those top 3 there, then our join-in code is 8B8E1L. And yeah, you can see how good you'd be against the best of the Football is Fixable, alright, Fantasy Football League. It just remains for me to say, have a great week, everyone, and it's goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.